Let's see if this works.
Hold
Can
on to
people
your
hear us?
butts.
We are calling out on the ether. Internet gods, we apologize for all the horrible things we said. No, not really. So if people can see, and I relinked this, and probably I'll have to edit all of this. So Google gave us a little bit of an issue and crashed on us. So if people are going into the other feed, well, there's no reason to do that. Aldo will be back with us in a second, assuming his internet's working. I know it's raining outside, so he's probably having some issues. And I think we pretty much covered what we could from the Rockstar EULA. I mean, aside from the inflammatory language, do we start there, or do we call the tech hour good?
I'd say we can probably just call it good, because I think we've kind of hit the point home of just how sketchy the whole thing is. I say as I have a sleeping Kirby on my thing. Let's yeah.
Pardon our dust. This is
Yeah.
I don't know if it's us or if it's Google Hangouts. We'll find that out later, but obviously we'll re-edit all this and give you a proper episode.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into the entertainment portion of Geek News here. And we actually have kind of a happy story to get into, which is, Aldo and Alex have talked about this a couple of times. Romney's gotten into the exchange, is the Digimon Tri, the new series kind of in homage to the 15th anniversary of the original Digimon Adventure, where they're all basically like almost ready to graduate high school. Mm-hmm. So we found out a little bit more about it. They got a cast announcement, a Japanese cast announcement. And also, we got some interesting news with it, which was basically that it's not going to be a series per se. It's going to be 6, I guess the way to put it would be like the equivalent of OVA.
Yeah, basically 6 theatrically released OVA.
Yes. So...
And they'd be movies, not OVA.
Yeah, they're using a different term, but that's basically what it sounded to me.
Yeah, just to kind of give people context, that's more or less what they're approaching, is that it's more or less 6 episodes that are being released in theaters, so 6 movies.
Yeah, so at that point, we still don't know much on the story. I'm guessing it's just going to retell the original story of Adventure.
Actually, it's a continuation of Adventure and
Okay.
Adventure 2. It's going to be more of a distant sequel now.
All right. So we know that at least. We have no idea when this is actually going to hit their theaters, do we?
Yeah, November 21st this year.
So, okay, this thing was slated for April, wasn't it?
Yes, and supposedly, I mean, it wasn't super clear, but by the hintings of the announcements last summer, it was supposed to be a series, but I don't know that for sure, because Anime News Network reported it as a series. Well, this technically is a series, but when they say series, we assume TV. But apparently Toei's gone the way of movies instead.
Yeah, and a lot of this stuff has not been too clear to me, especially the story, because, I mean, up until this point, I had not heard that it was going to be a continuation. It was going to be a retelling. And I don't know if I would have liked a retelling. I would have liked more of a futuristic version, maybe to counter the weird ending that Adventure 2 got.
And that's what this
like
is.
30 years in the future.
Well, I didn't think the ending was that strange. I mean, it did rush a few things in terms of giving the characters an epilogue, but...
Pretty much. That's really the issue that I had, is like, you could have based this 10 years later, and instead it's like 20. You know, I would have liked a 10 years later kind of deal to see if romances or whatever were going to work out. Obviously, they answered those questions, and well, many anime reviewers have covered those. I'm not gonna try to the same material.
So many ships were sunk that day.
Yeah, but then again, shipping's kind of a concept that I still don't quite wrap my head around.
So overall, does this still excite people?
No.
I mean, I'm still interested.
This killed my interest, because here's the thing, I wanted this so much to be a 50 or some episode series, which is about the typical Digimon length, about 50 episodes.
Yeah.
And no, I don't want it to be 6 movies, because, well, first of all, we don't know the runtime of these movies, but anime movies can be, I don't know, anywhere from 50 minutes to 90 minutes. Sometimes they're a little longer. Usually those are the really...
I've seen them shorter actually.
I've seen them shorter too.
I've seen like only 25 minutes long, usually as part of a double feature.
Yeah, I've seen that too. I don't
just ask any Kamen Rider fan.
Yes, that's true. They have come out to be shorter too. But it's just like, I don't feel like there's going to be too much they can tell with 6 movies that maybe, and 50 minutes is a slightly generous ballpark answer because I don't know.
50 minutes total for all 6?
I don't know. We don't know.
I doubt they'd be that crazy to have it be like that short. I think it would just be like 50 minutes with each installment, because if it was 50 minutes total, even by the standards of Saturday morning serials, that's pushing it, and people would complain.
See, and 50 minutes like per episode would not bother me. That gives more ground to be able to cover each time, but this is also based as a continuation, so either there's a new enemy to take care of, or this is going to be, where they are now to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Digimon.
Which makes sense, because, let's see, Tai, Matt, Mimi, Sora, OT. I think, it would kind of make sense where if it's like each movie, so to speak, is focusing on a different member of the Digi-Destined. I guess you could kind of put Tai and Kari in the same one, since they're siblings. And
same thing with Matt and Tiki, probably.
Yeah, same thing with... And so, I could kind of see maybe if that's the approach they're taking, where it is kind of an epilogue sort of thing, where you just have where each one's a vignette focusing on a different member of the group, so who knows?
I'm kind of banking more that this will be a new action story, new enemies to fight, new returns to the digital world.
Well, they probably would have action part of it, so maybe they may even just go the Rashomon route, where you see the same basic events but played out from the perspective of each of the different characters. So who knows?
I wanted this so much to be a series. I was stoked for it since last summer, and now it's going to be movies. And
well, it's just given that Digimon hasn't been doing that well when it comes to their merchandising, at least in the sense of trying to kind of capture that global market, they're probably trying to hedge their bets a little bit. Sort of the only thing they've got going for them is the Persona-style RPG they've got for the Sony handhelds.
And the other problem with it is that, again, Digimon has not had that much success, especially in the U.S. market. It's pretty much gone. It resurfaced on Netflix. It hasn't really been anywhere else. And so at this point, and the other concern that I have with this, obviously, is, they're talking about a whole new cast, but they're going to bring back the original Digimon voice actors for the Japanese version. U.S. probably won't do this.
Well, not as easily.
I think a lot of them have probably moved on.
Well, I know Joshua Seth has voiced interest in returning to voice Tai in order to maintain that consistency. It's just more of a case of nothing set in stone yet. I think Saban is the one that has the rights to the Digimon franchise, since I think it was part of when they bought back Power Rangers, they bought back some of the other properties that they had the license for. I'm not exact. And so it's kind of a case of, I know at least Joshua Seth has voiced an interest, but it's kind of the case of they probably haven't worked out the distribution of the movies here in the U.S. yet. That we don't know if Saban's going to try to distribute it either as theatrical releases to try to kind of do what Funimation did with Battle of the Gods, or if it's just going to be a straight-to-video sort of scenario. And the films aren't even out in Japan yet, so it's kind of the case of not enough has really been established with how they're doing it in Japan to really give the people over at Saban enough to work with for their distribution plan, if they have one at all yet.
Yeah, and who knows, it may not be Saban, it could be a split. We could see another split in the license here.
I think that's who has the distribution on Netflix, is Saban.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I know the current series was being dubbed and distributed by Saban.
Yeah. But I almost want to say this might not go to Saban. I know it's Digimon, and Saban's always been all over Digimon since they got it back from Disney, of course. But considering the kids are all now essentially in high school, this seems like this might go a slightly older route than the original Digimon, which was primarily aimed for kids. So, this could... who knows? Obviously, it's too soon to tell, but it could easily go... It could, maybe go Viz. It could be Funimation, who did have streaming rights to Season 2 for a little while.
Yeah.
And it could even be a similar case of, is there another distribution? Like, maybe, although Saban has the rights to the television series, does Disney still have the rights to the movies? Because similar with Battle of the Gods, they couldn't release it soon enough because they had to wait for Fox to decline the option to release it. And that could even be another issue where does another studio have the distribution rights to the film version? I mean, it could even be a case, does Fox have the distribution rights to the films and they have to wait for them to decline it, or will Fox try to snag it up because they're in desperate need of some hits?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Overall, I mean, a lot of this stuff that we're talking about is speculation because obviously this thing is due in, 6 months away from now this year in Japan, which means it's probably going to be another year before we even see it.
At best. A year at best. I mean, this is why, one more reason
I don't know if the returning voice actors, like, one person, that's fine, but, I mean, Derek Stephen Prince will probably step out and say he'll do it, but like all of our returning Digimon voices, are they going to come back? Especially if they have to wait 1 to 2 years.
Well, and I know it's a union thing as well that could even become an issue because Saban's a bit notorious for having a lot of their productions be non-union, so I mean that could even be a factor.
One of the things that actually I want to bring up, and it's not a good comparison, but it's the best one that I can come up with, is I can't even believe I'm going to mention this, but as far as anime fans go, I am a fan of a series called Inuyasha. Inuyasha had to have an ending that came out much later, and the problem is that, yes, you were able to get some returning cast members, but there were enough to make it kind of jarring. And that's kind of what I don't want to happen with Digimon, is I love those voices. Enough of them aren't willing to come back.
I don't see it happening. There's too much time has just passed, and the fact is, the longer time has gone in the world of dubbing, the less likely you're to see the old cast come back. I mean, we've seen this with the recent Evangelion rebuild films. Like, none of the original cast except for Spike Spencer, Allison Keith, and to an extent John Swayze are the only really returning actors to that.
I think you're missing Tiffany Grant.
Oh, Tiffany Grant, sorry.
And another thing to consider is the big if with the distribution worldwide is there enough of a market to warrant the distribution? Because, again, Digimon hasn't done that well merchandising-wise or series-wise here in the U.S.
I don't think Digimon has done well since our generation.
Pretty much.
I mean, there's been some
season
games
4,
and
I think pretty much flopped, didn't it?
Yeah. And this is, again, I keep getting into this. This is why I felt it should have been a TV series, because then, even if it didn't get immediate, dubbing, distribution, or home video rights, at least maybe it could have been, Toei could have streamlined it to Crunchyroll for simulcast streaming, and then they can kind of engage and see how's it faring in views on Crunchyroll and ad revenue there, and then decide if they want to give this a license to somebody to finally dub it and put it out. And
yeah, especially given how much Bandai has been burned with their anime distribution in the past. I mean, that's why Bandai Entertainment closed its distribution arm, because of just the fact that they kept releasing stuff that just wasn't selling, that just wasn't working. And so it's
you guys have to remind me that Bandai's gone.
Well, yeah, and especially since it's Namco Bandai that owns the franchise. I mean, I guess this is kind of what it comes down to when you have an anime series based on Tamagotchi toys. That's pretty much...
I was just bringing up the fact that you guys had to bring up that Bandai isn't here, and I don't get Gundam, and...
Well, Right Stuff's getting Gundam now, so you could...
Yeah, Right Stuff's getting Gundam, so I'm at least happy about that, but...
But I still don't get it. I mean, I still don't get it. We're getting a new Dragon Ball series, we got a new Sailor Moon series, but I gotta get 6 Digimon movies that may not even be that long.
But again, it goes back to the same case. Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon perform better both with ratings and with merchandising.
In Japan,
actually that's a question I have. Has Crystal done... I've heard mixed reviews on Crystal. Has it done what they wanted it to do? Has it brought in a high viewership?
I'm sure it has. I don't know the numbers.
I don't know the numbers.
Numbers are always kind of skewed. Those are kind of kept secret usually. So.
Well, yeah, but looking at how well they were able to sell Sailor Moon merchandise, even back when they were doing the live-action series,
sure,
that's the kind of thing that will usually keep these series afloat. Is the merchandising working out? And in the case of Sailor Moon, they have a pretty steady track record, even with series like the live-action series that aren't that great, still doing fairly well because of the merchandising and how they were able to make money off of that.
I mean, I know Digimon has kind of faded a little, and Pokemon has still managed to eclipse its popularity, but as far as I know, I mean, the original Digimon Adventure really kind of became a sleeper hit for Toei, and which prompted them to produce it more episodes and immediately kick season 2 into production before season 1 finished.
Yep.
So I figured, Digimon may not be quite the heavy hitter like Sailor Moon or DBZ, but at the same time, I figured it'd still be enough for them to warrant a full-on series treatment. And
it just depends. I mean,
for,
like a full 26 episode series, I don't know if I would have justified that, especially for a 15th anniversary.
Yeah.
But given that this is a nostalgic project, a 15th anniversary again of the original series, I would figure you might bring in the nostalgic crowd, and you of course will get the new viewers and.
I mean, the comparison that I have is obviously bring up another Bandai series. Gundam had its 30th anniversary, and I believe Unicorn was supposed to commemorate that. That was supposed to be a series, and that got knocked down to, I think it was 6 to 9 episodes that all released individually on Blu-ray in the U.S. So.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking in my opinion, 6 films is a bit overambitious even for Toei. I mean, it would make more sense if they were doing one film to test the waters and then maybe do a series or maybe do a series of movies. But the fact that they've announced 6, that is also a bit worrisome because on the one hand, okay, maybe they're trying to cut down on it, but as I'm sure we all know, animation is expensive, and if you're going to release something in the theaters, then it has to be really good animation. And so I'm in the camp that if they're going to do movies, they should probably limit it to 3 at the most. 1 just to test the waters, and maybe a couple more if
one to test the momentum. I agree with that at least.
I just don't want to come back in 2 years and find that they're gonna re-edit all the 6 movies. Now that all the 6 movies are out, and they're gonna re-edit them all into a TV series because I've seen that a little too much lately. It's driving me crazy.
Alex, I'm gonna get you to stop right there because your predictions have a really weird way of coming true, and I don't want you to destroy this for yourself. Okay?
Oh my God.
That's literally what's gonna happen. This is gonna happen, and then Alex is gonna be mad, and I'm gonna be like, well, you predicted it. That's the problem.
Production IG just did it with Ghost in the Shell Arise. Was probably about the same length, 6 OVAs, and TV series again.
I mean, they were willing to do the reverse of that, of editing episodes of a TV series for theatrical release for Attack on Titan, so I wouldn't put it past other studios to try to copy the same if it can minimize costs. So it's just a tricky thing because the animation industry, even though it's been doing moderately well in places like Japan, globally, it's still kind of iffy because of just how expensive it is to produce and how hard it is to get the return on the investment. So who knows? Maybe Bandai. Who knows?
I'm probably going to provide the final comment on here because we do have other stories to get to, but at the same time, we have other things to hash. Here's the thing, too, Alex, and I don't mean to be the guy to come in and wreck your hopes and dreams, but you're already expecting DVDs. I wouldn't even expect that because the bottom line is that streaming is streaming. And I'm afraid that's going to get overshadowed in the fact that streaming is cheaper to do.
Yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately, there are still anime out there that I've streamed but have never made it onto DVD, which is a shame.
Again, I had to watch the entire most recent Gundam series on YouTube.
And there's some series that can't. And there's some series that we can't get on DVD for various legal reasons, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yep. So let's go ahead and move on. Otherwise, we're going to have Alex's head explode again.
Do the scanner footage.
I don't want to break the record here. This is actually probably going to break it too. So Disney and Lucasfilm, or Disney Lucasfilm as far as I'm concerned, have announced that they are going to make a 5th installment in the Indiana Jones franchise.
Eventually.
Those who didn't see this coming, please stand on your head.
Well, I've known this.
See, I knew I was going to get Romney's reaction.
Well, I've known this is coming. I mean, this is Spielberg has said he's going to do Indy 5 since the end of Indy 4.
It was one of the first questions that happened when Lucasfilm announced the merger. Is Star Wars, is Indiana? We know Star Wars is secure, but what about Indiana Jones? Will they be able to work out?
And that was specifically a negotiation term that George had when Disney was proposing the buyout. Was, well, if you let us buy you out, we'll produce, in addition to having us produce Star Wars movies, we'll fund the next Indiana Jones movie.
Yes, and even then they have not even confirmed whether or not. And I would actually go the next step and say Harrison's probably not involved in this one. I don't think Sheila LaBeouf is either. If anything, this fifth installment might be, I'm going to call it right now, a reboot.
Yeah.
With
Harrison,
no.
Well, Harrison has stated he's pretty attached to the character, because I know there was the whole thing back when people, like, before Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, where they were just like, oh, well, are they going to hand the reins over to Mutt Williams? And Harrison Ford's just like, no, this is my hat.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I know Harrison loves the role.
And he said in the story, he was still interested, so I think he'd come back again for another adventure.
Yeah, but the question is, would that be the best idea, especially since Disney would want the franchise to keep going?
Because this is Disney we're talking about. They want lastability, and the way to make this last for them would be to put in somebody like Chris Pratt into the Indiana Jones role, bring Harrison in as the new father, and that way you can continue the franchise.
Yeah, I don't think Chris Pratt would be the best.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't think Chris Pratt would be the right choice for it.
I'm just throwing out an example.
I don't. Like,
because that was a rumored story a while ago.
Well, yeah, a common name I've heard people throw out that might make a replacement would be Bradley Cooper, but again...
Or the other one that I've heard was that they, since Disney has a history with him at least, you bring back Shia LaBeouf. And I would say, no!
No.
No!
We do not need the beef.
Nope.
I'm not even somebody who hates Shia LaBeouf as much as the rest of the internet does, but even I'm saying, no Shia LaBeouf, please.
Well, yeah, that, and I don't think Shia LaBeouf would even come back, because he's been trying to distance himself from more mainstream movies for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and on top of that, like, a lot of people would, I don't know this for a solid fact, but the basis on that is that he has still good standing with Disney. I don't know if he does. He hasn't done anything with them in years.
Especially given, like, that he's been doing films like Nymphomaniac, and there was that music video he was in that was getting a lot of backlash. He just looks like a crazy bearded weirdo now. It's
so
just kind of a case of...
I don't know if he has that rep anymore. So at that point, I don't think he would. But I just want to say, if you guys think that Shia should come back, no biscuit.
So let's just say,
unless they bring him back as the cannibalistic serial killer, like in that song, that might work.
Shia LaBeouf is a Nazi to get punched?
No, not as a Nazi. I mean, have you heard the song Shia LaBeouf the Cannibal?
No. I don't know
if you should. It's really good. It's not that scary, but it's really good. And I'm just thinking, like, it's like running for your life, but you're wrestling a knife from Shia LaBeouf. Yeah, look it up. The people watching probably know which one I'm talking about. If they brought Shia LaBeouf back as actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf, then that would make for an interesting movie.
Okay, so at this point...
Can we talk? I want to keep talking about this a little more.
No, I was actually going to bring up another interesting topic on it. So for a fifth installment, like, do we have an idea where they could go with it? Obviously, Kingdom went aliens, and nobody really liked that.
Well, the thing is, the problem wasn't so much that they went aliens, it's that they didn't commit to the idea of them going to aliens.
Yeah.
I mean, if they literally went Indiana Jones and the Saucermen, it would have been better. But then George had to get all insecure because Independence Day came out, and so he had to change it, even though Spielberg said, no, let's stick with it. And then it's like, oh, they'll be interdimensional beings. And then Steven's just like, well, what do they look like? They look like aliens. So the aliens itself wasn't the bad part. If they just committed to it from the outset, instead of trying to hide the fact that it was about aliens, it could have worked. So I wouldn't be against them doing aliens if they actually decide to do it as a send-up to those 50 B-movie sci-fi films like they initially planned.
Well, I guess the reason that I'm bringing it up is, like, what angle do you go? Like, what mythos can you go with Indiana Jones that it makes sense that he would know it?
Well,
I mean, the one that comes to mind for me is I've always wanted Fate of Atlantis to be given a movie treatment. I don't know if it can be, but...
There is one Indiana Jones screenplay that was written but never produced that they could probably pull from. and
That
it's
was
called
that was the Chris Columbus screenplay, yeah.
yeah, like Indiana Jones and the Monkey King, which that one could be a good one because it's pulling from
Mhm.
Journey to the West. He actually finds the As You Will iron cudgel, however the heck you pronounce that, the staff that changes size.
Yeah.
And so they could even pull from that. I mean, I know that's. I mean, they could pull from stuff like that. There are various mythologies they could probably pull from.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it just depends on whether or not they decide to bring Harrison back or if they decide to go with the hard reboot.
Yeah, and that's the problem that I have a concern with is I'd love to see Harrison back, except maybe not so many I'm getting too old for this jokes. I
Well,
would just like to see him come back.
I do have an idea that could work with the old Indiana Jones. It was even something I even developed a bit as an elevator pitch. Basically, it would be Indiana Jones and the island of Dr. Moreau. And here's like the basic setup. Fade up, you have Indiana Jones, he's on a plane on a way to give a lecture at some place, and the plane is accidentally brought down and happens to crash down on, well, the island of Dr. Moreau. One by one, he sees the various passengers that were on the plane with him getting turned into beastmen, and it would lead to some sort of big climactic battle, probably taking place in a cave somewhere, where you'd have the version of Dr. Moreau hybridize himself with a snake, because it's always snakes.
Well,
And the idea is that Indy would. Now, here's how I imagine the scene. He's running through the caves, the Snake Man is coming after him, and he's injured. He's not able to move at his best because he's gotten old, and he's probably taken a few scrapes, and so he has to come up with some sort of creative way. And this is the scene as it literally plays out in my head. He lures the Snake Man down a tube, positions a cane that he has with him, and then basically takes a leap of faith. The Snake Man comes after him, the cane triggers some rubble to fall right on top of the snake, thus effectively killing it, and Indy's able to get away. But as he goes to check on it, a piece of venom shoots out, hits Indy right in the eye, causing him to lose that eye, which would then tie it back to the adventures of young Indiana Jones and how Indy is missing an eye when he's giving the narrations. And then at the very end, he'd be rescued, and probably some sort of one-liner saying, "Oh, you must have had quite the trip," or something like that. But that's just kind of the image I have in my mind. So maybe if they decide to go with some of these other older horror stories, so maybe like Island of Dr. Moreau, maybe even tie it into Frankenstein, maybe that could even be a good idea if they actually fully embrace it.
Yeah. Well, leave us a comment below if you guys like the screenplay that Romney has just submitted. So,
I want to give my few cents suggestions about a possible next indie movie here, and that is okay. It's assuming Steven Spielberg comes back there, and he probably will, to direct this. Okay, first of all, I don't know how anyone else might feel about this, but I'm one of the few who didn't mind Crystal Skull that much, but still, I don't want a direct continuation of Crystal Skull. The best part about all the original Indiana Jones films is they're standalone. I saw Last Crusade long before I ever saw Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom, and I understood it perfectly. So, yeah, make it a standalone picture. Next of all, if Steven directs it, please hire a different cinematographer. I don't, maybe Rodney will disagree with me on this, but I really don't like Janusz Kaczynski as a cinematographer. I don't like the way he photographs, and I don't like the visuals of that. I don't know whatever happened to a great cinematographer by the name of Dean Cundey, because he just kind of disappeared and started getting a lot of crappy movies to photograph. And
okay.
you know, that's kind of my gist of it. That's really it. Those are the most things I wanted to get off my chest. Hire a different cinematographer, make it standalone, done.
Okay. Well, leave us a comment in the thread below on whether or not you liked Alex's or Romney's ideas for
At
the
least
next.
Romney
Indiana
has a
Jones.
full pitch. I just have a few demands.
Yeah. I know that.
Well, yeah, because I think like if Harrison comes back,
But
well, yeah, if Harrison comes back, they need to kind of acknowledge the fact of, okay, well, Indy's old, instead of having him hopping around and everything using CGI. I mean,
Yeah.
having an older Indiana Jones does have some good story potential. They just need to frickin' commit to it and actually frickin' use it.
exactly. So I think we pretty much hit the nail on the head on this story. We need to move on, but because we're going to be running over tonight because of the whole Google problem. So the next story here is kind of one that I thought would happen at some point, but a lot of people were wondering if it was going to happen in Japan. So Nintendo has possibly worked out a deal with Universal to put in attractions to their theme parks. Now, I made kind of an offhand joke on our show notes, basically saying, so Universal's going to get a Mario coaster, which is basically what this kind of sounds. That Nintendo wants to basically have a upcoming attraction in Universal-themed parks, which sounds to me like a ride of some kind. But first of all, they aren't clear on whether or not this is actually going to be reserved park space, like an actual section. At that point, I don't know where you'd put it, or if it's just going to be like one or two rides. So at that point, I guess my first question is, do we want a full section of the park, or do we just want one or two rides, or we don't want this period?
Hell yeah, give it a full section of the park. Harry Potter gets its own section. Why not Nintendo?
They may want to test the waters a little bit, though, because, well, it's a bit tricky. I mean, I know, for example, they used to have Back to the Future, the ride, a while after. Then it became the Simpsons ride.
Oh,
so maybe what Nintendo might do is that they may take the spot that the Simpsons ride is currently at and use that to test the waters. Maybe have it be like some sort of R-Wing sort of ride, where you're flying around in some specially designed R-Wing and you have to help Fox defeat Starwolf or something. That would probably be the safest way they could do it.
That would actually give me a little redemption of Universal, because I still haven't forgiven them for taking out Back to the Future the ride, because that was an awesome ride.
I have it on DVD if we ever need to simulate the experience.
You didn't experience it, though.
No, I didn't.
It's for move for move, the exact same script as Back to the Future the ride. To me, that was poor as far as planning. I mean, if you're going to just do this, do it like a Simpsons ride. And there were just so many ways that, because I went to Universal a couple of years ago, where they basically said and didn't say, yes, this is Back to the Future the ride. We basically repurposed this for the Simpsons. Please don't shoot us.
Yeah, I especially find it sad that Dr. Frank tried to save it and then ended up ruining it for Doc Brown.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah, so that's my theory, is that that's probably what Nintendo will do to start, because retrofitting a theme park to have a huge section like that, it's a bit of a gamble. I mean, it's worked out for Harry Potter, and I know there's actually one in the works. I don't know if it's with Universal or with another theme park where they want to do it for the Hunger Games. So
yes, I've heard Universal, and I've also heard not Six Flags. What's the other one? Busch Gardens, I think, and Disney.
The Hunger Games really is a theme park attraction? Maybe as a stunt show I could buy that, but as a theme park attraction?
No, I don't even want that.
Fun-filled family time.
If it was Universal, do you know what they would take out to do a Hunger Games one? I already can tell you what they take out, and I would be pissed off for it. And it would be the frickin' Indiana Jones one, and I don't want that removed.
Well, I thought the Indiana Jones one was... Oh, yeah, guys, we're talking about Disney, because Indiana Jones, they have it at the Disney ones. I'm not sure if they have it at the Universal parks.
I might be thinking of the Disney
World.
Studios. But, it's one of those things where it'd be like, it would be imitating the Indiana Jones to make a Hunger Games stage show. And Hunger Games is just depressing to me.
It is. I don't know why they keep trying to market it as the follow-up to Twilight, because it isn't. It doesn't have that demographic appeal. That's why I just gave up on it. So,
dude, when you have to walk out of the movie and instantly need a Prozac dose, and you're not even on Prozac, that's a problem. And this is a popular book series.
Yeah, and so I'm guessing that Nintendo may do something like that, where they'll either retrofit the Simpsons ride or some other ride, because I don't quite see them doing this as one of the Islands of Adventure just yet.
No.
They're probably going to want to test the waters a little bit and see, okay, well, which games can we attract? So Star Fox, that pretty much writes itself, that pretty much creates itself.
The guarantees are obviously the two staples. You're going to have something Mario-based. You're probably going to have something Zelda-based.
Yeah, so Mario Kart, that pretty much, like Mario Kart or F-Zero, probably more Mario Kart, because Nintendo seems to hate F-Zero.
See, so Mario Kart, I would actually say the Mario thing would be Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Mario Kart, yeah.
Unless they could find a way to incorporate Mario Party into it. That would actually be kind of cool, but Mario Kart's the easiest. Star Fox, you could get a nice, theater sort of ride, like Back to the Future the ride, or even something like Captain EO. And
yeah.
So,
I'd probably fly a Star Fox R-Wing simulator. That would be pretty fun, I think.
Yeah,
but
or
I'm
it would just...
trying to think of some other things that would actually work.
Pokemon.
Pokemon would. I don't know if
Luigi's
Metroid-
Mansion Haunted House. That one they would probably be able to do pretty easily.
Yeah, but like other properties like Metroid, like Earthbound, I don't know if
Earthbound
if
they wouldn't do
rounds.
anything with.
Not
because,
Earthbound. Maybe in Japan, but not here.
Yeah. Like Metroid, maybe they might be able to do something with it, but again, it would probably be similar to just sort of like, well, like Back to the Future the ride. That is like the best example where maybe and that would probably be easier because then it could explain, oh, why does this ship that's supposed to be flying really fast have space for multiple seats? So okay, Samus's starship and maybe a first-person thingy kind of mimicking Prime. So Metroid, you could probably think of something. Luigi's Mansion, a typical haunted house attraction, pretty easy.
Yeah.
Mario Kart creates itself basically. So
Okay.
trying to think of other Nintendo properties, but
See, that's the problem. I can't think of any aside from those.
well, yeah, like Zelda. I'm not really sure how you could do a Zelda one except for maybe like a themed restaurant, like a themed attraction that doesn't have like any rides or
Yeah,
anything. But
because
maybe...
you can't do a Zelda coaster. Like Mario, you could probably do like a roller coaster based around Mario Kart or something like that, but Zelda is a harder sell.
Like
Yeah.
Zelda, you probably would have like a crossbow range that just happens to be next to maybe something that's modeled to look after the look like the Romani Milk Bar, maybe. But that's about it.
I hope not. I don't like that would be Link's crossbow training all over again to me.
Well, like, at least it would make sense because well, Link's crossbow training was more or less the theme park shooting gallery. So
Yeah.
I mean, they probably wouldn't want to necessarily have kids shooting Gorons in the dick, but
Alex, so what do you think? What do you think they could actually pull off in a Nintendo part of Universal?
Well, like Romney said, a Zelda-themed restaurant, just something Hyrulean. Paint Triforces all over the place. Triforce tables. Drink some sort of drink that comes out.
it would probably be
Zelda.
milk because that's like the main.
Yeah,
like,
they'll
milk
make like a pina colada drink or whatever and call it Lon Lon Milk.
or they probably would have like various fruit juices be the various potions. So you'd have the one for health, the one for magic, the one for stamina.
Yeah.
And the employees can all say, it's dangerous to go alone, take this.
I want them to say it just because I want to have that one Janine Garofalo one say, it's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Anyway,
I'm totally working for my paycheck.
other things, just
Let's look at the
maybe
shelf.
a Mario roller coaster, paint Mario on the carts, put mushrooms around the coaster track. I totally would do an R-Wing flight simulator if I could fly around and shoot stuff in simulation. That would be badass. What else? Pokemon. Pokemon's so easy to do, even if not rides, but just themed shops, attractions. A Pokemon Center. They got Pokemon Centers in Japan that are shops.
Well, yeah, and given that at Universal they have like a section where you can buy comic books because of the Marvel Island of Adventure, they'd probably do something similar with Pokemon, where they just have various Pokemon merchandise, including some exclusive you can only get at the park.
Well, it's not
What
just
is
that. Like
Pokemon
they have
Snap
comics
Ride?
available, but they also like showcase older comics. Like I remember going there, and I think they even had like an Amazing Fantasy number 15, the first Spider-Man comic, and that was awesome to be able to look at because I'd never even seen one of them.
Oh,
Yeah, the Pokemon Snap idea, that could almost be like a guided, like a fake guided tour maybe, where you just have someone like, okay, we're gonna go to this region, and then like you have like the people able to take pictures and then get it printed for a small price or something.
You know what? An idea just actually came to me. Could you technically replace E.T. the ride with that?
There's an ET ride.
yeah, there's an ET.
You didn't know that? Yeah, there is. There's an
Well,
E.T. ride.
In my defense, I have not set foot outside of the state of Utah in my
Yes, you
entire
have.
life, so I've not been to any of the famous theme parks.
Yes,
so I do not know this stuff.
there is an E.T. ride. It is kind of a slow-moving tour through the movie, except it's supposed to be like its own story. But I could totally, and I actually don't want to see this happen because E.T. the ride is kind of a classic thing. And at that point, I think even Steven Spielberg would scream bloody murder if that happened. But yeah, you could do something similar to what they did with E.T. the ride for Pokemon Snap and take pictures and things like that. So that's something you could do.
Yeah, of course, everybody would probably want to say, well, what about Smash? But Smash probably doesn't have any real attraction.
No.
Smash
potential.
Arcade. Put up an arcade with Super Smash Brothers. There you go.
If you did that like with
Yeah.
legacy versions, like you had the N64 one and you had Melee and Brawl, that would be fun.
Yeah, because I know that's what some of the Disney parks did when Kingdom Hearts came out, is that they just had a they just put a thing in the arcades that said, okay, well, here's Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, what they did was, and this actually kind of pissed me off because Innoventions, one of the one attractions in Florida that I actually wanted to see, basically became a, oh look, here's what Disney Interactive is working on, go and try it out. And so at that point where I wanted to see all these cool inventions happen, instead we got Kim Possible games advertised all over the place, and we got an Even Stevens game that was, I guess, in development but then shut down, and it was basically Disney Interactive using this to get feedback on their games.
Yeah. Then again, what's to stop Nintendo from wanting to do the same thing?
Sure. No, I totally agree, especially with new developers coming to the helm.
Especially given how they've been trying to promote Splatoon like crazy, they probably say, okay, well, let's have a temporary thing we can tailor to promote each of the new games coming out. So they probably would say, okay, well, we've got Splatoon coming out, so let's have a Splatoon event thing here, or
I have a great idea, Nintendo. How about reach out to the YouTube community in the U.S. and give them special benefits to broadcast Splatoon, and that you won't go against them, and you won't try and yank their videos, or you won't actually try to force them into a service that is stupid? I'm smoking crack. See, Romney even agrees and he hasn't said anything. I'm smoking crack.
I don't need to say anything. We all know it.
Another idea came to me, maybe like 3D shows. I know Disney parks had, like Disney Epcot
Zelda would probably be a good way to do that.
Yeah. And I'm guessing they probably would do that instead of the restaurant thing, because they'd save the restaurant thing for Donkey Kong, because, well, jungle themes seem to be popular at theme parks.
See, Donkey Kong would be a better restaurant kind of thing, because then you could do like a bunch of tropical drinks and say, this is Cranky's brew of crankiness or whatever. I want that officially put in the next game, Cranky's brew of crankiness. So, yeah. I don't know if we can actually go much further into this story, but...
because it's all speculation at this point, because we haven't seen anything. It's just an announcement.
Exactly.
Speculation, or are we just feeding Universal Studios and Nintendo lots of ideas?
Well, what did they ever
I don't know, Alex. It's just a theory. A game theory.
Of course, the real question is, since when does Nintendo ever actually watch anything on YouTube that isn't their own stuff?
That's true. That's true.
Please, MatPat, don't shut us down.
But Universal...
Well, he wouldn't. If he did, that would be a dick move on his part, which would then... Let's move on before we get into another tangent.
Yes,
all I can say is, Universal, though, if you're watching this and you take some of our ideas and present them to Nintendo, I don't ask for much, just a couple of free passes to the park and for, VIP.
Yeah, let us go opening day so we can test out the rides.
Yep. We got to move on, because obviously we're over and all that fun stuff. And the next story I already know none of us want to talk about, but we're going to do it anyway. So if people might have noticed, Avengers Age of Ultron came out, and a little bit afterwards, for some weird reason, Joss Whedon's account was deleted from Twitter. Now, he has reasons for this, and he stated them. Bear in mind, he stated them days after, so, you had internet confusion for a couple of days there. But one of the main reasons that a lot of people thought he did that was because, well, the feminists came out in full force on his portrayal of Natasha Romanoff, a.k.a. Black Widow. I've heard that's mostly the culprit there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people thought he deleted his Twitter account because all the militant feminists came out against it, and he just didn't want to deal with them. I'm just going to point this out right now because I don't want to have to deal with this later. So the reason Joss deleted his Twitter account is actually kind of a viable one. It's one of the main reasons why he's not working on the next Avengers film. He wants to go back to writing, and the way that he kind of sees that is that he needs to get back to his quiet place. He needs to get back to his inspiration. And one of the things that interfered with that was his Twitter. So that's why he got rid of it. And I agree with that completely. Do I think it's legitimately the thing that you have to do? And welcome back, Aldo. Thankfully, the gods have not hated us completely. So hopefully you've been catching up, because I'm not going back. We're not doing a lightning round just yet. So that's Joss's reasoning for it, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's one of the things you have to do. Do I go as far as deleting the Twitter account? No, probably I just go inactive. But that's where he went. And a lot of people took that as, oh, the feminazis came out and just destroyed Joss Whedon, and that's why
especially with
Twitter, and that's why he's going to leave Facebook, and blah, 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 blah.
By the way, flame shields up.
Exactly. And here's where it gets a little more interesting in the fact that one of the people who actually came out to console and comfort him was Anita Sarkeesian.
Dun dun dun.
Which is a controversial topic for this show, because every time we bring her up, I get 10 messages just saying, why are you even agreeing with her? Well, you're going to hate me now because I agree with her on this. Coming out and comforting and all that. I actually kind of agree with Joss's commentary on this, which is basically, okay, I'm going to quote this verbatim. I saw a lot of people say, well, the social justice warriors destroyed one of their own. It's like, nope, that didn't happen. I saw someone tweet, it's because Feminist Frequency pissed on Avengers 2, which technically Anita, I think, did. Which, for all I know, they may have, but literally the second person to write me to ask if I was okay when I dropped out was Feminist Frequency founder Anita Sarkeesian. So, and then he goes on later to say, this is why I left Twitter. Take a chill pill. It's not because people are giving me critique on Age of Ultron. I don't care. I just want to get back to my roots. But at the same time, we still have so many people thinking, no, this was just a PR response, that he was being forced by Disney to get out of there because the feminazis, and wow, I've read so many theories on this. It's just
Yeah.
God, seriously, sometimes you could take a guy on his word. And Joss is a writer. This makes sense. If he were just to relocate himself to a random cabin in the woods, it would not surprise me.
Yeah, it's just something that's bothered me, and a lot of people are gonna probably flame me for this, but with the direction that modern feminism has kind of taken, and it's even a complaint people have leveled against Anita Sarkeesian, it's that they don't actually they basically look for stuff. They look for validation for their own opinions instead of actually evaluating something, because a lot of the criticisms they've been leveling against Avengers 2 Age of Ultron, I just don't see it. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, Natasha thinks she's a spoilers, heads up, spoilers. It's like, oh, Natasha thinks she's a monster because she can't have children. It's like, no, that's not part of it. No. And a lot of people tend to forget the fact that, oh, she thinks she can't have children. No, it's because she doesn't have the choice, which is a big freaking deal. It's not like she actively chose to have herself sterilized. She had to. It was basically forced upon her. And then you've got people who are saying, well, yeah, it's a lot of people think, oh, yeah, and that's the reason. It isn't. It's just an aspect of the character, and that's her trying to basically explain to Bruce that she is also not a normal human being. But the problem that I have with a lot of the people that have kind of hijacked the feminism movement is that they basically look for small bits and pieces to try to back up their arguments. It's classic confirmation bias.
Mm-hmm.
It's the fact that they're arguing against Joss frickin' Whedon, who has basically been one of the major champions of feminism, especially in media, especially when you look at his pedigree, is ridiculous.
Well, actually, that goes into the next quote. So I want to bring this up because Joss has even said, and he even says this in the interview, I've said before, when you declare yourself politically, you destroy yourself artistically. He's pointed out his views before. He is very much in the feminism market, or not market, but
he identifies
on the bandwagon. But he also said, believe me, I have been attacked by militant feminists since I got on Twitter. That's something I'm used to. Every breed of feminism is attacking every other breed, and every subsection of liberalism is always busy attacking another subsection of liberalism. Because, God forbid, they should all band together and actually fight for the cause, which is kind of the exact problem. Is instead of being all these various different subsections, if you came together, you could at least maybe get a compromise or get what you wanted out of the matter. But instead of you just right on Twitter and you either are this feminist or this feminist, and then you argue amongst each other? Really?
Yeah, I think Patton nailed it best when he responded, although he speculated that they drove him off Twitter. It's pretty much said that there is a Tea Party equivalent for progressives, and they just drove Joss Whedon off Twitter. That was literally the tweet that Patton Oswalt sent out, and it's true. You've got the vocal minority, the radicals, overpowering the actual important stuff.
Mhm.
And it's ridiculous. And my main theory as to why this has happened is that we as humans like crafting ourselves a narrative. We want for there to be some big villain, some big opposition, because it makes our lives feel more significant, when in reality, the real world is infinitely more complex, and to be honest, you as a person are probably the most insignificant thing in the known universe. But we want to create that narrative, which is why things have gotten so volatile regarding any hot opinion one way or another. We're trying to basically find those dragons to fight. We're trying to find some big bad that we're supposed to stop, that we're supposed to fight. We're trying to find some sort of cause when it doesn't exist.
And it
really,
got worse, too, because like while we were trying to find our dragons to fight, guess who stepped into the line of fire and start fighting back the trolls against Joss? Anita.
Yeah. And one thing...
Which, she's put herself under fire plenty. And the fact that she willingly stepped into the fire, that's saying something.
Yeah, and and this is one thing that I've noticed about everybody who's always complained and saying that she's not a good example. And again, this is probably going to get me shot.
Quick, Alex, put up the flame shield.
Yeah,
Okay.
A lot of the people who keep making the complaints about Anita Sarkeesian, a lot of them, at least that I've seen, have mostly been guys. Now, some of them do bring up valid criticisms, but then you get the idiots who go to various extremes, and you wonder how the hell they can even function amongst normal society without being on some sort of FBI watch list.
Which they probably are now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the whole deal with this is it drives me nuts because overall, I mean, even like in the story, Anita admits like one of the things she wanted for someone to be like to argue with a bunch of people who wanted Clint and Natasha to get together, which is in the first Avengers film. She kind of points out her stuff on there, and I'm actually just going to step up and say, look, she stepped into the line of fire when she didn't have to defend Joss Whedon when she didn't even agree with Age of Ultron. That says something about her, and that also says something about the people who came out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all the criticizers of Anita, we basically just got the female equivalent at Joss. Of her stuff at Joss Whedon. So, as far as I'm concerned on this whole story, guys, nobody's perfect. And even I knew as soon as Age of Ultron was going to happen, when the first Avengers movie was going to come out, this was not going to be a Marvel interpretation. This was going to be Joss Whedon's interpretation of the Avengers. And it worked out or it didn't work out. You like it, you didn't like it. It's pointless to argue with a narrative that is not uniquely yours. You know what? Lord of the Rings scholars don't like Peter Jackson. Why? Because he's not Tolkien. And even he admits it.
Yeah, and I mean, there was even details of... There were changes that he either had to make, or there were some changes he wanted to make that people fought back. Like, he didn't initially want the undead army in Return of the King, because he thought it was ridiculous. But
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of a case of, with any adaptation of anything, it's always going to be somebody else's interpretation. Not everybody can be Katsuhiro Otomo and get to adapt their own stuff. It's going to go through somebody else's filter. And even with Katsuhiro Otomo, it went through a different filter than from when he was doing the manga, because the manga hadn't even ended yet when he was asked to direct the movie. So even when it's being done by the same guy, it's going to go through changes. And really, this is why I hate fandoms in general, because of stupid crap like this.
Literally, like, some of these people might have even been on the bandwagon a month before. And now they hate him because of one little infraction. There's a reason that I go off of a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And to the people who want to scream at me, no you don't with Michael Bay! 3 Transformers movies, guys. 3 strikes and you're out. Just saying.
Yeah.
Although you've been fairly quiet on this, is it just because you don't want the flames, or you?
It's because I couldn't get a word in edgewise.
Sorry about that.
Your
No,
opinion on that, Aldo?
I know the rage. I mean, I raged out on Star Wars.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you guys have pretty much hit the nail on the head here. It's just stupid people saying stupid things. And I get that there's stuff that people aren't happy with, but you also have to look at this at a perspective from story, especially with like Natasha's whole baby making problem. You have an assassin who all she wants is a normal life. As far as we know in the media that she sees, a normal life is a woman who has kids, who gets married, has a white picket fence. If she can't have that, which is what she sees and perceives as a normal life, and she sees herself unable to achieve that, what else is she going to see herself as? It's not because of it's not because it's stereotypical. It's because that's what she sees. She sees the exact opposite of what she wants to have.
Yeah. And it's not even a generalized concept. This is what Natasha viewed from, at least the way that the movie kind of portrays it, from her upbringing.
I would understand
that Academy had different views.
I would understand it a lot more if like Maria Hill was also, I want to have a family, and every other female that they spoke to, if they spoke to Helen Cho and Helen Cho was like, I want to have a family too, and everybody just wanted to be a stereotypical stay-at-home mom, then I would understand the rage. But the fact that you have this wide, it's not as extensive as the male cast, but the fact that you still have a fairly unique and somewhat large female cast, even if they are all secondary characters who have different goals and different careers, and the fact that we just ignore that because of one thing, it kills me inside. Joss also got a lot of flack for the prima nocta joke that Tony Stark made. I don't know if you guys talked about that one.
We haven't talked about it, and I was just about to mention it goes into that same thing. A lot of people gave flack. Oh, they made an archaic rape joke with prima nocta, but again, you have to look at Tony Stark as a character.
Well, and let me interrupt you right before that. I'll let you get back to your what?
What scene was it again? I can't remember.
It was when they're all trying to lift the hammer.
Okay, all right. Yeah, so, no, I get it now.
So if you remember in the original trailer, the line when he picks up the hammer, or he tries to, he says, "I will be fair but strictly cruel," or something like that.
Yeah.
Disney wasn't too happy with the line, so Joss, as kind of to retaliate, said, "Okay, I will change and we'll re-record the line, but you can't argue what I do. So you can either let me have fairly but cruel, or you can have whatever I do next." So they agreed, and he gave them the prima nocta line.
Apparently,
now to explain
pinball machine. I don't know.
To explain what prima nocta is, prima nocta was a practice by medieval kings that they could basically sleep with any woman on their wedding night. That was the kind of idea, is that the king didn't have, basically it was his right as a king. That's why they had that satire in Robin Hood Men in Tights with Patrick Stewart emerging as the king, where he invokes his right to kiss the bride. That's basically what prima nocta is that the prima nocta is the right of the king to sleep with any woman on their wedding night.
Which, at that point, just given the character, both makes sense from Tony Stark's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fan of Tony Stark, but I'll admit, he's a little bit of a problem when it comes to certain things.
He's not exactly a saint.
Yeah, and that's the idea behind the character. I mean, when you look at how the original comics were portraying him, Stan Lee created him as the kind of character you were supposed to hate, as the kind of character you wouldn't like, but you still end up feeling sorry for, because in the initial version of Iron Man, he couldn't exit the suit. And then that was translated to, oh, well, he has to have the arc reactor in his heart. Because Tony is not meant to be a super noble, righteous character. We have Captain America for that.
Exactly. That's the problem here, is that you're criticizing a character who is the way he is.
And in the end, all of this is just people shooting at a blank wall and drawing targets until they get the argument that they want.
Yeah, that's the sad part here.
Although I think Mark Ruffalo, when he was asked about this in a Reddit AMA, I think he pretty much put it best. The reason that a lot of these female characters have been under such scrutiny is because we've yet to have any really good female superhero movie that's a standalone. I know Joss Whedon initially wanted to bring in Captain Marvel, and specifically, I can't remember her name, but the
actress that they had.
Not the actress, the actual character. That she was Miss Marvel, but then she became,
Carol Danvers?
Carol Danvers, yeah. He wanted to bring in Carol Danvers, but Disney said no, and then it was just they couldn't find a way to work her in, because they were going to go with the mysticism angle for Phase 3, and so it was just kind of the case of, Mark Ruffalo pretty much says, well, that's why this is so volatile, is because we're still waiting for that really good female superhero movie that pleases everybody. We're waiting for basically the female equivalent of the first Iron Man movie that feels like a comic book movie, but is also appealing to the mainstream. And we've yet to have that, and that's kind of why everybody scrutinizes all these things. But it's kind of it's a cycle where they try to do it, but then people jump on it when it does slight things wrong, and then studios think, well, we're not going to bother if this is going to keep happening.
Exactly, and that's kind of the issue here, and I actually would counter Disney. I think it would be the best thing for you to bring out Captain Marvel because, well, Warner Brothers is about to one-up you with Wonder Woman. So
I doubt it.
Well, no,
doubt-
at least in the fact that they're doing it. You know, that they
I
don't
doubt Warner Brothers could one up in anything at this moment.
probably not.
But they do have the thing is that they do have her lined up, and she is gonna be ready.
Right.
But
She's made Phase 3, hasn't she?
she's I think she's meant to come in right at the in between Infinity War 1 and 2.
I think so.
You're
Yeah,
gonna need.
she's got a film.
Yeah, she has a film confirmed.
Well, probably during the events of Infinity War Part 1 and 2, I assume, because, well,
If I remember the timeline
Yeah, I can't
correctly.
remember the line like right off the top of my head, but there is a Captain Marvel film in there
Yes.
somewhere. And I think Phase 3 is like the mysticism angle. It's Doctor Strange, it's Ant-Man, it's all that stuff. And then I think in between Infinity Wars 1 and 2 is
Yes.
where Captain Marvel is.
Yep.
well, just given the events of the Infinity Gauntlet, you need that character there.
Yeah.
Especially if you also want to introduce people like Adam Warlock and all that. It's just kind of the case of you need that sort of character, especially since they can't
Yeah.
use Silver Surfer. You probably need to introduce Captain Marvel or Nova at the very least.
Yeah.
Well,
and
they-
I think the angle that they went is that it's not that she just gets a film. She gets a cameo, I think, in Infinity Wars, doesn't she? She shows up.
We don't know that.
Oh, is that still a rumor? Okay,
That's
because
still
I
a rumor.
remember them actually saying like there was going to be a cameo of Captain Marvel and in Infinity Wars, and then bounce into a film.
Well, it's like they wanted to have a cameo in Age of Ultron. It just didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, they wanted to have a Spider-Man cameo too, and that didn't work out either.
Well, they wanted a Spider-Man cameo in the first Avengers, and that didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, it is 12:30, unfortunately, so I'm unfortunately going to have to call this. I know we have one more story. Maybe we'll just move it to next week. But yeah, it's getting pretty late, and I think we've pretty much covered the lost ground that we had because Google unfortunately decided to pull out the Thought Police. I guess I don't know what happened there, but we'll eventually put up a video that will be everything merged properly.
I will not be silenced.
You will not be silenced, Aldo.
Raccoons!
Exactly. The wrath of the raccoons will be upon YouTube. So in the meantime, though, we're going to go ahead and call it for tonight. If people want to get a hold of us or give us commentary on what we think about certain stories, do you think we're full of crap on Anita Sarkeesian? Do you think Joss Whedon is nothing but a sexist pig? I don't know. Aldo, how do they get a hold of you to complain?
If you want to complain directly to my face, my address is... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pull
that didn't work out for Tony Stark, so don't do that.
No.
I remembered. No, if you want to talk to me directly, just tell me how wrong I am about feminism and Anita Sarkeesian. You can
Or
do
how
it on
right you
Twitter at Aldo531. That's at the little A circly thing for those of you. Because I'm assuming that if you're against this, you probably don't know what an @ sign is.
Oh, don't go
Otherwise-
that far.
Shots fired!
Otherwise, you can also find me on YouTube at youtube.com/reviews versus the world. Obviously, Geek News Reviews and Opinions, and Board Offline.
All right. And Alex, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, if you want to complain to my face, you can find me at 666 Elm Street. There may or may not be
The guy with the
nightmares.
giant nails.
No, okay, if you want to find me, you want to talk to me, you can, of course, find me on YouTube. My nickname here is ShadowBlazer3000. I like to make anime-related videos, like to make reviews, commentaries, other stuff I like to do on my channel when I can. It's kind of hard to do it all. But you can also find me at Twitter. My handle is AlexJShort. You can find me on Facebook, again, just like for Alex Short. And tell me who you are, tell me how you found me, and just tell me about you, and I'm happy to talk to you.
Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost and Studio Phantasma. How do people get a hold of you?
You can always find me on youtube.com/Studio Phantasma. That's Phantasma with an F. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/RomneyReviews. No apostrophe. You can also find me on MoviePilot at moviepilot.com/ROMNE. And you can also find me on Twitter at RomneyReviews. And you can also find me on SpringMe at spring.me/AskRomney.
All right. And then if people want to get a hold of me directly, which they probably will, you can do so at Drac2326 on my YouTube channel. That is where Geek News is hosted. That's where the playlist is. Also, Gaming with the Geeks. Please let us know what you guys think of those. We have plenty of ideas for that. My Twitter handle is also Drac2326, and you can leave your opinions there. I'm not necessarily saying I'll agree with your opinions, but who knows? Maybe I'll rethink things because of that. You know, Anita already made me rethink my views on women in gaming, at least to some extent. To debate her. And if you want to get a hold of the show directly, there are 3 ways you can do that. One is geekyweek@gmail.com. You can submit your own stories. You can submit your feedback on the stories, and we'll cover it. You can also go to Facebook and look up Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions and like it, and you will get first-hand information when we're going to be going live, whether or not we're going to be going live because of Gaming with the Geeks or whatnot. And then also the second way to do so is our Twitter, which is @GeekyNRO. And that also gets the updates on when we're going live, when we're having problems, things like that. So those are the ways to get a hold of us. And that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode. So for me, for Romney, for Alex, and for Aldo, we'll see you next time for even more Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions. Google, you suck.